Well, on this Friday edition, November 20th, 2009, we have Kevin Trudeau in studio. And, it's hard to put this guy in a box and really say what he is. He's done so much. Author, lecturer, top infomercial guy on television. And he has raised the ire of the federal government. They said, you can't sell your books, you can't go on radio, you can't go on TV, you have no First Amendment. Well, he didn't back off. He's still gone on radio and television. He came on this radio show, and now he has beaten them with his appeal in court because it was so flagrantly unconstitutional. And again, whether you agree with everything Kevin says or agree with some of it or agree with a little bit of it or all of it, all of us either hang together or hang separate, as Benjamin Franklin said, when the government and the media team up to come demonize somebody and say we must crucify them, we must shut them down, we must openly persecute them, we must give them $25 million or $27 million fines, we have a problem. Look at Merck knowingly putting out Vioxx, knowing it would cause heart attacks. Look at Merck with the Gardasil shots in their own trials, knowing it was causing autoimmune diseases and killing people. Now confirmed mainstream news. We told you 3 years ago during the trials. In 1981, Eli Lilly and Prozac, they knew massive increases in suicide, psychotic breaks, homicidal mania. Now it's on the inserts. 20-something years later, 19 years later, they've been forced to put it on the inserts. So you have these big drug giants that want a monopoly, and Kevin Trudeau's writing books about well-known alternative treatments and cures that are known in Europe and Asia, and he's being demonized as the ultimate snake oil salesman. When I've read a lot of his books, I haven't seen all his material, but a lot of it really looks, legitimate from what medical doctors and others have said on this show. But regardless, even if he was wrong, he has a First Amendment right. If Kevin Trudeau is successfully destroyed by these people, everyone else is next. Obama's openly announcing he wants to regulate and shut down the web for national security. They're openly announcing they want to federalize all your local police. The power structure, the big Fortune 100, want to consolidate the markets. They want to shut down freedom of choice. And that's why Kevin Trudeau is here today, really on a crusade to fight this, because he's one of the only people that's had the money to go after these people. And he's one of the only people I've ever heard of in the last century who's actually had his books banned in the United States. We're going to talk about it all today. Kevin, when we hit that break, you were starting to get into the criminal activity. I mean, Bayer knowingly shipping out over 1 million ampules of Factor 8, knowing it had HIV and hepatitis in it. But they're not getting in trouble. It's you, because you're saying vitamin C is good.
Exactly. When I first did this, I mentioned last time I was on the show when I was calling in from Germany, Sean Shanahan had Hooked on Phonics in 1989, teaching kids how to read because the school systems were pulling phonics out of the schools. I introduced Mega Memory, and I exposed that the Department of Education was getting school systems to get the kids on the drug Ritalin, and they were giving $500 a month per kid who was on Ritalin. And I said, they're drugging the kids on purpose. The school system's drugging the kids on purpose.
And I remember watching that when I was in college. That's why you've been enemy number one all along, because you immediately went after their drugging of the kids.
And I see, people don't understand. I got the phone call. The phone call was, we need to have a meeting from the Federal Trade Commission, and they said, you have to stop talking about Ritalin. That was a one-on-one meeting, and I said, that's the point of the Mega Memory program. Sure, it improves your memory, but I'm exposing the drug Ritalin. And I will not back down. And they said to me, we will not back down either. They sued Sean Shanahan with Hooked on Phonics, bankrupted him. They sued me. I fought back, basically won that. But then they've been on a crusade ever since to demonize me as the messenger. But they never said that the Mega Memory program, for example, didn't work. They never said that there are customers who bought Mega Memory and didn't get a refund. And then when I came out, Natural Cures, they don't want you to know about that book, which was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list 26 weeks in a row. In 2004, it was the #1 selling book in America. It outsold Harry Potter. It outsold the Da Vinci Code. When I came out with that book, I exposed how the pharmaceutical companies were basically fraudulently lying to people about the research, about the efficacy and safety of their drugs. Now, what just came out yesterday? That the pharmaceutical companies write these letters saying how good a drug is. They go to the doctors at the medical schools, the PhDs, and say, sign this letter, make believe it came from you, and we'll pay you $100,000. Now, I exposed that in 2004.
And now that's coming out that all the major boards pushing all the vaccines, they're all on the payroll, but they're not making $100,000 now. Some of these guys are making $500,000 a year just to sit there and say you need this.
And doesn't it include the secret stock options and the warrants they're getting as well? So that's why I've been pushing, and that's why the Federal Trade Commission, which does a pretty good job in the media, saying Kevin Trudeau's a snake oil salesman, he's a convicted felon. Well, you know, what snake oil am I selling? I'm not selling Vioxx. That seems like snake oil.
Well, they're trying to discredit you because I remember, you've been doing this so long, I remember when I was a senior in high school and then in college, I'd be sitting around in the dorm watching you, and I remember you talking about Ritalin on TV, and going back through my memory, you're one of the first people that really woke me up to that, and now they admit it shrinks the children's brains, causes their heart to swell, retards growth, retards their psychological development, their mental development. Everybody knows Ritalin's bad now, and it was really Kevin Trudeau.
I was one of the first guys out there, and you talk a lot about fluoride in the water. I talk about fluoride in the water. We talk about the genetically modified food, how it caused illnesses and disease, the antibiotics in meat and dairy, the bovine growth hormone in meat and dairy. You know, why do we have such obesity in America? The report came out 2 days ago that said in the next 7 years, over 50% of Americans are going to be not just fat or overweight, obese. Obese. Why is it rising when more people are on diet food? More people are going to the gym ever before in America, but the obesity rate and the overweight rate keeps going up and up and up and up.
Oh, listen, 50, 60 years ago, everybody working on our family farms, I've seen photos of them in old film footage. They were all super skinny, but they ate gigantic, huge piling meals.
A lot of fat, a lot of beef, a lot of dairy, a lot of carbohydrates. Nobody was on diet food. There was no light beer. They were eating real beer. They weren't on aspartame and Splenda. These chemicals are being specific. And I've been in the meetings. You know, when I was involved in the marketing, some of the stuff behind the scenes and developing some of the mind-controlled advertising, I was there. You know, how can we say something to make it legal in the words, but have the person's impression be what's not true? That's how the marketing was done. And so coming out and exposing this, that's why I'm public enemy number one to the government, especially the pharmaceutical industry. You know, when I went on Larry King, I was booked on Larry King right after I did the Today Show with Matt Lauer. I was on Matt Lauer Live. Right after I did the live show with Matt Lauer, I got a cancellation from Larry King. And Larry called me and said, I'm really sorry, and I have to tell you, I was ordered to take you off the air because CNN executives do not want you live because you won't do what we tell you to say. When I was on with Donnie Deutsch on CNBC, first thing he said, don't talk about the drug companies. I mean, so that's the problem.
Well, that's like 40% of their advertising.
Yeah, you can't go on there. And I've been offered deals. Just stop talking about fluoride, stop talking about the drug companies, and we'll give you a free pass.
Well, I can't imagine the deals you were offered. Back when I was like on 10 radio stations in 98 and 99, I was approached by some of the biggest radio networks, and they said point blank, no more Federal Reserve, no more black helicopters, no more New World Order. You can be the next Rush Limbaugh. How does, $1 million the first year, 15 million the next sound? And I said, I can't stop talking about the truth. And now look at us all these years later. House Finance Service Committee approves bill to audit the Fed, rejecting Watt's fake alternative in the House, and votes to rein in foreign currency swaps. So the beginning of the end for these people is now here. The public now looks past Republicans and Democrats, the puppets. They're now seeing the power structure. And it just shows that not selling out has now paid off for the truth and freedom. We're not winning yet, but we're beginning to get there.
And what's happening is you're seeing it as well. The bigger voice you have and the more that people begin to listen to you, that's when the attacks start coming.
Oh, my gosh. I've got no exaggeration, over 20 attacks the last 2 days. CBS News, Jerusalem Post, George Soros, Media Matters. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable.
Correct. So when you start having an influence, that's when you get the attacks. Now, my books, 50 million copies have been sold. On TV, I have more impressions than anybody else in the last decade, even Oprah. So I'm having a huge influence. I've had over 70 million customers buy my stuff. I had 3 TV networks in Europe. I had manufacturing facilities in China. So I had a big influence, and I'm having a big influence, and that's one of the reasons why I'm the snake oil salesman. I'm the fraudster. I'm the person deceiving America. Talk about smoke and mirrors. Where are all the people that have been deceived? You know, where are all the customers? I mean, remember Dr. Phil, he wrote a book called The Ultimate Weight Loss Solution. Now, the guy's chubby. I don't know how he could write a book on the ultimate weight loss solution, but it was fraud. And what happened? The people who bought it sued him. There was a class action suit, and he settled for $10 million because he was deceiving the public. Look, you can't sell 50 million copies of a book, and if you're deceiving the public, not get sued.
But regardless, it's not the government to be the arbiter. It's the lawsuits. It's not the government to be the arbiter to say, Kevin Trudeau, because I don't get all the big hubbub. I mean, I've read several of your books on cures you're not supposed to know about and things, and this is stuff that I've already heard 50 times from. I'm not poo-pooing your book. It's stuff I've already heard from medical doctors.
It's not new.
It's like, oh, get vitamin D, get sunshine. Oh my God, this is so evil.
There's nothing in there that they never attack the message. Because the message is in everybody else's book. Maybe I presented it in a better way.
Yeah, you put it on on TV and put it in a nice book.
People are reading it. That's the point. People are reading it. But the one thing in my book that's different than the other ones, why the attacks, is I expose big pharma.
No, that's